Have you heard of something so mind-blowing that leaves even the most brilliant scientists scratching their heads in shock? Well, get ready, because today, we're diving deep into the greatest mysteries that have made people go, wait, what? Africa, known as the home of humanity, is home to numerous breathtaking landscapes, vibrant cultures, and a rich history that's older than most of us can imagine. It remains one of the most beautiful continents, but buried in its incredible history are megastructures that seem almost too advanced for its time. What are they? Who built them? And how were they able to pull it off? Stick around because these structures might just challenge everything you thought you knew about ancient civilizations. Gedi Ruins, Kenya. The Gedi Ruins in Kenya remains one of the most baffling and mysterious landmarks of the African continent. What makes them so unusual is that they were entirely unknown to history until their discovery by colonial explorers. When historians and archaeologists stumbled upon the site, they were shocked. There wasn't a single written record about it anywhere. But that was not the only weird thing about this site. The ruins and artifacts on the site suggest that the town was home to a highly advanced and intellectual population. Yet, for reasons unclear, the city was mysteriously abandoned in the 17th century, leaving behind more questions than answers. How did a town like Gedi become so advanced? Why was it abandoned? And perhaps the most baffling of all, why is there no historical record mention of it? Answers began to emerge only after years of research. The Gedi ruins were once part of a medieval Swahili Arab coastal settlement located in the tropical Arabuko-Sokoke forest. Now recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, the settlement is believed to have been built in the 13th century, reaching its peak in the 15th century with a population of around 2,500. These residents weren't just skilled artisans and traders, they were intellectuals living in a thriving, well-organized community. You might want to ask, how do we know all this? The discovery of Chinese porcelain, Venetian glass, and Persian pottery offers clues to Gedi's role as a key player in the vast Indian Ocean trade network. These artifacts highlight the town's economic significance and the cosmopolitan lifestyle of its people. Their craftsmanship is evident in their buildings, which were made from lime, coral stone, and sand. The town's layout was also advanced, featuring inner and outer walls separating the wealthy from the middle class and peasants. Within the inner walls, archaeologists found chambers with no windows or doors. Assumed to be treasure stores that could only be accessed through secret openings in the roof are present. The ruins also include streets, a mosque, pillar tombs, and even a king's court, indicating their advanced urban planning. The discovery of artifacts from all over the world suggests that Gedi was a bustling trading center, yet its decline remains shrouded in mystery. Some historians believe that the economy of the town was hit hard after the Portuguese arrived in the 16th century.
May have taken a hard hit after the Portuguese arrived in the 16th century.
Others suggest that aggressive tribes at the time had forced the town inhabitants out. Yet archaeological assessments of the town show no signs of an invasion.
Lies one of Kenya's most intriguing archaeological sites, the Gedi ruins.
Till today, there has been no concrete answer as to why this advanced town was abandoned. Luxor Temple, Egypt. One of them is one of the most fascinating ancient structures in Egypt, the Luxor Temple. While most ancient temples were built as an homage to the god, the Luxor Temple was made for more.
Visiting Luxor Temple is another highlight, and it's most beautiful at night in our opinion.
It was dedicated to the Theban triad, which consisted of the three main Egyptian deities, Amun, Mut, and their son, Khonsu. It was also used for the rejuvenation of kingship. In other words, it served as a ceremonial palace where Egyptian rulers were crowned. Here is an interesting fact. It was here that Alexander the Great was declared Egypt's legitimate ruler in 332 BCE. But the temple had been long-standing way before Alexander was even born. The Luxor Temple was constructed around 1400 BCE.
First is the Karnak Temple where we are right now. You have the Valley of the Kings, and then next we are heading to Luxor Temple.
Long before Alexander the Great made his mark on history.
It's King Alexander the Great. Inside this chapel is King Alexander the Great's name.
To put that into perspective, the temple had already been standing for over 1,000 years by the time Alexander was born. Located on the east bank of the Nile River in the city of Luxor, construction began during the reign of Amenhotep III, known as one of ancient Egypt's most prolific builders. Amenhotep III built a grand entrance, also known as a pylon, and decorated it with giant statues of himself as a godlike ruler. But the story of the temple didn't end there. Over the centuries, other pharaohs added to the temple. Tutankhamun expanded it with a courtyard and an avenue of sphinxes that connected Luxor Temple with the nearby Karnak Temple. Ramses III, one of the most powerful pharaohs of ancient Egypt, left his mark too, adding a large colonnade and a massive seated statue of himself at the entrance. Over the years, more and more constructions have been made, and today the Luxor Temple stands as a remarkable example of ancient Egyptian architecture and a powerful reminder of just how much importance the people placed on their religion and their rulers. Kweneng, South Africa. Hidden beneath the vegetation of South Africa's Suikerbosrand National Park, the lost city of Kweneng has been rediscovered using advanced laser technology called LiDAR.
Using laser technology, they've discovered a once bustling but now lost and abandoned city in South Africa.
This city, which dates back to the 1400s, was once home to about 10,000 people and had around 800 stone-walled homes.
To recreate digital images of homesteads that housed the city's estimated 10,000 Swana-speaking people.
It was a bustling center with passageways and large enclosures for cattle, showing that livestock and trade were important to its economy. Kweneng thrived until the early 1800s, when it was likely abandoned due to civil wars. Now, the ruins are helping researchers understand more about Southern Africa's unwritten history. Kweneng was the largest known Swana city and grew from scattered homes in the 1400s into a lively urban center by the 1700s. Using LiDAR, scientists have uncovered its layout and learned about the people who lived there, their buildings, and their way of life. This discovery is filling in gaps about the region's past and giving new insights into how people in pre-colonial Southern Africa lived and worked. The ruins of Kweneng are not just ancient stones. They help tell the story of a lost world and its rich history. Leptis, Magna, Libya. In the late 7th century BC, nearly 600 years before the birth of Jesus, the foundations of one of the best preserved Roman ruins in the Mediterranean were laid. Known today as Leptis Magna, the site wasn't always under Roman control. Located on North Africa's Mediterranean coast in modern-day Libya, it fell under the rule of Rome in 46 BC after Rome's victory in the Punic Wars. Over time, Leptis Magna grew to become one of the Roman Empire's most important cities, thanks to its fertile farmland and booming olive oil production. Its prosperity was so enormous that the city was able to provide £3 million of oil annually to Julius Caesar as tax. Over time, it grew into a major trading hub in Africa. During the reign of Emperor Nero, an amphitheater was constructed, providing a venue for theatrical performances and public gatherings. The structure is filled with rows of stone benches that accommodate thousands of spectators, offering entertainment and a sense of community to the residents of the city. Leptis reached the height of its power when Lucius Septimius Severus, a native son of the city, became Emperor of Rome in 193 CE. Under his reign, Septimius ensured that he favored Leptis over all other cities, and he lavished wealth to create buildings, making Leptis Magna the third most important city in Africa, rivaling even Carthage and Alexandria in its prime. But as history has shown time and again, greatness is rarely eternal. Things began to change in 3th century CE when the Roman Empire faced political and economic turmoil, which weakened Leptis Magna.
These baths were a hub of social interaction and relaxation for the citizens of Leptis Magna.
The Vandals' invasion of North Africa in the 5th century further weakened the city, reducing it to a shadow of its former glory. Although it remained inhabited until the early 7th century CE, its days of prominence were over. Leptis Magna was rediscovered in the 1920s when the Italians conquered Libya. Despite Libya's turbulent history in the years that followed, the ruins have remained remarkably intact. Today, Leptis Magna remains one of the largest and best preserved archaeological sites in Libya, a reminder of the once prosperous Roman city on the edge of the empire. Great Zimbabwe, Zimbabwe. This medieval stone city located in modern-day Zimbabwe is one of the most impressive ancient sites in sub-Saharan Africa, second only to Egypt's pyramids on the continent. Interestingly, the name Zimbabwe doesn't come from the modern-day country's name. It's actually the reverse. The name comes from the Shona word Madzimbabwe, meaning big house of stone, a reference to its massive stone walls, which are nearly 10 meters high and stretch about 250 meters long. The country of Zimbabwe was named after this historic site to honor its cultural and historical significance. During the 14th and 15th centuries, Great Zimbabwe was the bustling capital of the kingdom, covering around 8 square kilometers. The city was divided into 3 main sections: the hill complex, where the king lived, the Great Enclosure, home to the royal family, and the valley complex, where the general population lived. At its peak, the city housed about 18,000, with the rulers wielding both economic and religious power. Great Zimbabwe became a major trade hub in Africa, linked to the Indian Ocean trade network and key Swahili coast cities. The city's wealth came from being a major player in the trade of gold, ivory, and copper, attracting merchants from as far as Arabia and India to the city. Archaeologists have uncovered evidence of this thriving trade, including pottery and glass from Asia, as well as coins from Kilwa Kisiwani, a trading city over 1,500 miles away. However, by the mid-15th century, the once prosperous city began to decline. This decline was caused by several factors, including reduced trade compared to northern sites, depletion of the gold mines, political instability, famine, and water shortages, which were exacerbated by climate change. It's wild to realize that climate change has been a factor since the 15th century. Centuries later, the ruins became a subject of political controversy. During European colonization, racist colonial officials denied that Africans had built such an impressive city. Instead, they spread myths, claiming it was linked to the biblical Queen of Sheba, or built by the ancient Greeks. In the early 1900s, archaeologist David Randall McIver proved that the city was constructed by indigenous African people. However, colonial governments rejected this because it challenged their rule. They even promoted false histories to downplay the city's African origins. By the 1960s and 70s, Great Zimbabwe became a powerful symbol of African pride and independence during the nationalist movements across the continent. Today, the ruins remain a source of cultural and national pride in Zimbabwe, even represented by the soapstone bird on the country's flag. Las Geel, Somalia. Las Geel, which means water source for camels, is a hidden treasure in Somalia. This ancient site, over 5,000 years old, is home to stunning rock paintings that show cattle, humans, and wild animals. These colorful drawings give us a glimpse into the lives of the people who lived here long ago, herding animals and thriving in a greener landscape. The artwork, found in 15 caves, is some of the best preserved rock art in Africa. While French archaeologists officially discovered it in 2002, locals have known about it for years, though many avoided the area because they believed the red paintings were a devil's gift. Whether these paintings were made for rituals or as an artistic record of life remains a mystery, but their beauty and detail have lasted for thousands of years. Beyond the artwork, Las Geel is part of Somaliland's rich history and culture, which locals are working hard to preserve. In the capital city, Hargeisa, Said Shukri is collecting artifacts for the country's only museum, hoping to protect Somaliland's traditions and share them with the world. Sadly, some of the animals shown in the paintings, like lions, no longer roam the wild and now live in zoos due to a lack of game reserves. Tourism at Las Geel is still small, with only about 50 visitors during busy seasons, but locals believe better roads and international promotion could make it a popular destination. With more attention, Las Geel could help share Somaliland's incredible history with the world. Kami Ruins, Zimbabwe. In between the rolling savanna of western Zimbabwe, hidden just 22 kilometers from the bustling city of Bulawayo, lies Kami, a place steeped in mystery and history. Today, it is known as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, but centuries ago, Kami was the proud capital of the Torwa dynasty, emerging around the time of the disappearance of Great Zimbabwe. While its architecture is quite similar to that of Great Zimbabwe, Kami's unique features are what truly set it apart. Long before the first stones were laid, the land around Kami posed challenges that would have deterred most settlers. The thing was, the region was hot, riverine, and cursed with malaria. Additionally, the local stone was notoriously tricky to work with, crumbling easily when quarried. Yet, the Torwa people saw this as an opportunity. They built ingenious retaining walls using fragile stone, walls that supported elevated platforms rather than standing independently, as seen at Great Zimbabwe. These platforms weren't just strong, they were smart. The fact that they were higher off the ground made their homes cooler and safer from malaria-carrying mosquitoes. The royal family and nobles lived in these elevated, secure areas, while the commoners lived in the valleys below. For 2 centuries, Kami thrived as a center of power and trade. However, like all great kingdoms, Kami eventually faced its downfall. In 1683, Changamire Dombo, leader of the Rosvi rebels, attacked and overthrew the Torwa rulers. The Rosvi destroyed much of Kami and made a new capital called Danamombe. After that, Kami was abandoned, and by the 1830s, the Ndebele people took over the region. Kami became nothing more than a forgotten ruin. Today, Kami's ruins still stand, and they hold many secrets. Archaeologists have uncovered decorated terraces and ancient platforms, but there's still much we don't know. One strange discovery is a Christian cross left by a missionary long after the city fell. Was Kami already in decline when Christianity arrived, or did it play a role in the city's fall? We hope to discover more as time goes on. Volubilis, Morocco. Volubilis, located in Morocco, is an ancient city that has remarkably preserved its rich blend of cultural influences from high antiquity to Islamic times. It stands out for its well-preserved ruins. Located 170 kilometers from the Atlantic Ocean, Volubilis was a significant Roman city that was built around the 1st century BC and remained active until 480 AD. Surrounded by fertile farmland, the city was popular for producing wine, olives, and wheat for the Roman Empire. Today, visitors can still see roads, arches, and mosaics that are nearly 2,000 years old. At its height in the 2nd and 3rd centuries, Volubilis had a population of 20,000 to 30,000 people and was protected by a 300-meter-long wall. During this time, the city built significant structures like the basilica, baths, and a large arch. The houses were big, with mosaic floors, open courtyards, and water fountains, similar to Moroccan homes called riads. Families lived together in these homes for 2 to 3 generations. Interestingly, even after the Romans left, the city was inhabited by people from different backgrounds, including Syrians, Greeks, Berbers, and Jews, who continued to speak Latin until the arrival of Islam. Volubilis was also a key trading post, with a road connecting the Mediterranean Sea to the Atlantic Ocean. Although the city was partially destroyed in the 18th century by an earthquake, many structures remain intact. To date, only a third of the site has been excavated, revealing mosaics with Greco-Roman mythology, like Bacchus, the god of wine. The ruins include olive presses and other Roman engineering feats, highlighting the city's agricultural importance and its rich cultural and historical legacy in North Africa. Nok Caves, Togo. The Nok Caves in northern Togo are an incredible example of how people used creativity and bravery to survive during tough times. The caves were specifically built by the Moba people in the 18th and 19th centuries to help them stay hidden in the cliffs to protect them from the Chokosi, a neighboring group that captured people to trade with European slave traders. The caves were a safe haven, with over 130 granaries to store food like millet and sorghum, fresh water from nearby springs, and defenses like poisoned arrows. The Moba even used tricks to outsmart their enemies, such as luring them over the cliffs while escaping through hidden cracks in the rocks. They communicated with themselves using smoke signals and animal horns, making the caves nearly impossible to invade. Today, the Nok Caves remain a fascinating place to visit. Visitors can still see the granaries, old cooking areas with blackened walls, and smooth rocks worn down by centuries of use. Different areas of the caves were designated for men, women, and community meetings, where leaders would tell stories under the moonlight to keep spirits high. While some artifacts have been stolen, many original items like bows, arrows, and clay jars can still be found. The caves are now recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and they continue to hold cultural and spiritual significance, with ceremonies still performed to honor the ancestors who once lived there. The Nok Caves are not just a historical site, they're a powerful reminder of human resilience and ingenuity. Kilwa Kisiwani, Tanzania. Kilwa Kisiwani is a historic island off the coast of Tanzania in the Indian Ocean, once the heart of a powerful empire that thrived between the 13th and 15th centuries. At its peak, the Kilwa Sultanate ruled from Kenya to Mozambique, controlling the entire Swahili coast. The island is home to ancient ruins, including the Great Mosque, which is the oldest mosque still standing on the East African coast, and the impressive palace of Husuni Kubwa, once the largest building in sub-Saharan Africa. These structures tell tales of the island's former wealth and influence, which was driven by its control over trade, especially gold, which made Kilwa a key center in the Indian Ocean world. Today, Kilwa Kisiwani is quiet and much poorer, with locals mainly relying on fishing and farming for a living. But centuries ago, it was a vibrant cosmopolitan hub where Swahili merchants traded goods like gold, ivory, and slaves across vast distances, reaching as far as India and China. The island's rich history is still visible in its ruins, such as the Great Mosque and the Makutani Palace, which show the influence of various cultures, including the Shirazi Arabs, the Portuguese, and the Omanis. Despite being in ruins today, Kilwa Kisiwani remains a UNESCO World Heritage Site, attracting archaeologists and tourists who come to explore its fascinating past. Adam's Calendar, South Africa. In 2003, South African pilot Johan Heine was flying over the hills of the Mpumalanga region of South Africa when his plane crashed into a mountainside. Thankfully, he survived. As he helped his crew member to safety, Johan noticed strange circular stone objects scattered throughout the region and began photographing them. Upon walking over to some nearby stone monoliths, he realized that they were aligned to the cardinal points, north, south, east, and west, and behind them lay a giant stone circle. This led him to believe that they might be the remains of a long-lost ancient civilization. As he investigated, he realized these formations were connected to astronomical events, including equinoxes and solstices. 3 stones aligned perfectly with the sunrise, and a hole on the western side seemed deliberately designed. It was then that Johan realized that he had discovered a calendar, possibly one of the oldest in the world. Named Adam's Calendar, this site, often referred to as African Stonehenge, is believed to be one of the oldest man-made structures in the world, even predating the Great Pyramid of Giza by tens of thousands of years. At over 75,000 years old, this series of stones is the only example of a completely functional and intact megalithic stone calendar in the world. Essentially, stone calendars are stones that are arranged in such a way that they can easily track the sun and the moon, hence the name. This breathtaking wonder, a massive standing stone circle that spans 30 meters in diameter, is located deep in the heart of Mpumalanga in South Africa. The Adam's Calendar site has been found to have various astronomical alignments, and its discovery challenges many long-held assumptions about the history of human civilization. It suggests that there may have been ancient cultures that were far more advanced than previously thought, and that these cultures may have had a significant impact on the development of human society. At first, researchers thought the stones were the remnants of kraals left by African tribes as they moved south in the 13th century. However, further research revealed something far more extraordinary. The site was once an astronomical observatory and possibly an ancient religious temple. Even more remarkable, over 20,000 similar structures have been discovered throughout the region. What's truly astonishing is that Adam's Calendar still functions today. The setting sun casts shadows on the stones, marking seasonal and time changes. Despite decades of research, the true purpose and secrets of Adam's Calendar remain a mystery. The possibilities are endless, and one thing is for sure: this site in South Africa continues to captivate and intrigue people from around the world. Was it a center for religious ceremonies? A tool for early science, or something else entirely? However, one thing is clear: these ancient stones also stand as a reminder of our mysterious past and how much we have yet to learn about their world. Thank you for watching the video to the end. If you liked it, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel to enjoy more similar content. We'd love to hear your thoughts on these ancient African megastructures. Let us know what you think in the comment section. We will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.